Hello, Sovereigns. I'm calling in from Amsterdam, where I am at Bitcoin Amsterdam. It's a annual conference, one of two main conferences organized by Bitcoin Magazine. The other one is the biggest Bitcoin conference of the year, and this is the biggest Bitcoin conference of Europe. The other one, obviously, being Bitcoin Miami. And it's a very small conference in comparison to last year. Intimate even. But I have to say it's very exciting being here. The type of conversation that I'm hearing, the kinds of conversations that I'm participating in are completely different, 180 degrees from where we were last year and the year before that. We've been through a crypto winter now for, I don't know, 2 years. But we've been in an innovation winter in Bitcoin for far longer than that. The narrative in Bitcoin has focused on influencers and podcasts saying the same thing over and over and over again without the ability to think adversarially or expand their minds, talking about shitcoins and talking about digital gold and talking about hodling and showing graphs about why number will go up. And I think we've all been frustrated and experienced the monoculture of simplistic, almost cultish-like behavior that we've seen in Bitcoin. What's remarkable now of the period that we are in is the amount of excitement and innovation and the sense of adventure that has returned to Bitcoin. We saw it first with Ordinals and then with BRC20. We've now seen new at multiple different projects working on various roll-up technologies. And over the last week, we saw the BitVM paper, which is a truly exciting paper around bringing more computational functionality to Bitcoin, all without requiring any new opcodes or any changes to Bitcoin main chain. But at the same time, we're also seeing a cultural shift, not only amongst developers who want to work on Bitcoin and people who want to try and drive change and development, but even amongst the most hardcore maxis. A recognition that we need tokens in Bitcoin, that shitcoins and shouting about them is not a way to build an economy. In debates, public and private, that I'm currently having, I am experiencing a shift in the way that even the most hardcore maxis, people who were calling all of us, and me in particular, a shitcoiner just 6 months ago, now coming around to viewing what we're doing with Sovryn and what is happening with the wider Orange Revolution as core to what Bitcoin is going to be over the coming years. I'm extremely excited about where Bitcoin is going, both culturally and technologically. And because so much of this is possible without making changes to Bitcoin main chain. And I'm extremely proud of all of us and of my own role in helping to move this forward and to be part of the community that has built the most successful example of Bitcoin smart contracts and Bitcoin DeFi that exists anywhere. And at the same time, the timing for us could not be better. We have for years now been working day in and day out, patiently, frequently under great criticism, and mostly under the conditions of a frustrating bear market, to continue to bring to fruition the sovereign goal of first building an ecosystem of DeFi applications In fact, the leading ecosystem of DeFi applications for Bitcoin. Then using that and leveraging that to bring rollups to Bitcoin, and finally allowing those things to be the basis for building an entire world on Bitcoin and building the world's first Bitcoin nations. And so the timing for us is perfect because due to the hard work of so many contributors, we are now coming very close to being able to complete the first of those 3 phases. Very soon, we're going to have a exciting metamorphosis of Sovryn. Sovryn's those remaining smart contracts, which are not governed directly by Bitocracy, will be upgraded to be directly under control of Bitocracy, and we call this Bitocracy 3.0. We've prepared a short video to try and encourage the entire community to participate in this. You guys are getting a sneak peek. We'll play the video now, and then we'll discuss it further.
We're putting the final touches at Sovryn on something we're very proud of, the Bitocracy governance system. We've already discussed many times how Sovryn Bitocracy is designed and architected in a unique way, one that provides more security and incentive alignment than any other governance system out there. But another thing that makes Bitocracy so special is you. We regularly see over 20% participation in votes. Compare this to the 1 or 2% participation that we see with other DAOs. And this isn't just a small number of founders and A16Z. This is users and developers and contributors and funders and the entire community. None of those groups has more than 20% of the entire vote, and none of them vote as a group. They all vote as individuals on the basis of their sovereign understanding of what is best for the project. Unfortunately, in the world that we call DeFi, there's a lot of decentralization theater. Projects that are controlled by a small number of people and by multi-sigs. But with this upgrade, Sovryn is going to become truly one of the most decentralized projects out there. The entire system is going to be governed directly by Bitocracy, not by the multi-sig and not by Exchequer. And so this is a really big vote. In fact, it's so big.
I'm not getting any sound. Is anyone getting any sound?
In this way. And we need all of us to
I am.
participate. Every single one of us voting individually on each of these individual votes so that we can upgrade Sovryn, so that it can allow anyone like us who wants to have freedom and self-sovereignty to find the tools to do it, so that Sovryn can be the most decentralized, the most secure system in the world, so that everyone eventually can stay sovereign.
All right, so suffice to say, this is a big deal. And like was pointed out in the votes, it's been a huge amount of work, and it's going to be a very big vote. In fact, such a big vote that there's 5 votes required. Bitocracy needs to do 5 smart contract changes, 5 upgrades in order to bring this to fruition. Updating governance and Guardian transfer scripts, fixing loan tokens, introducing the pauser role and protocol settings and contract to create new Guardian multisigs. And now vote on Bitocracy 3.0 SIPs. So I'm encouraging all of you to let every other sovereign know that this is a rite of passage, not just for us, but for Bitcoin DeFi and in fact DeFi as a whole, and is an incredibly important moment. And I'm excited that I'm going to be able to get to vote with all of you on making this happen. For a little bit of further context, can we go to the next slide? Actually, I'd like to allow either French or John, who have prepared and done so much work around preparing this, to discuss this. I think my slides have changed a little bit, so I will just finish my final thoughts. We are, at Sovryn, we've been shipping since day one on a continuous basis. we have extremely ambitious goals. So ambitious that it's easy to see them as absurd, ridiculous, unachievable. But it is through this incremental, unceasing work that won't stop and cannot be stopped, that Sovryn continues to move closer and closer to its goal. And the fact that we are this close to achieving such a major milestone, I think, is extremely powerful proof to the world and to ourselves that we continue to drive our goals forward. I'll hand it back to you guys now.
Thank you. John, may I ask if you'll discuss the Bitocracy vote timeline? No.
Hello? Okay. So as the timeline graphic shows here, we have 3 days of votes with 5 different votes happening on each of, basically, the first vote is going to be on Friday, October 20th, where we will be voting on SIP 47, changing of the Guardians. This is to approve the new Bitocracy and Contracts Guardians. If that vote is approved, then on Monday, October 23rd, we will run the Guardian transfer script and execute the proposal to basically transfer the Guardian roles to the new Guardian multisigs. And then we will start the vote on SIP 46, Part 1 and 2, which will be a vote for Bitocracy to accept partial ownership of the AMM. The AMM has many different contracts, and because it has so many contracts, we can't actually fit all of the changes needed into a single vote. So we're breaking it up into 4 parts. The first 2 parts are going to be voted on Monday, and the last 2 parts are going to be voted on Friday. This is to minimize the chances of confusion or kind of a splitting of attention and votes between the different proposals. So we're going to have 2 on Monday, the 23rd, and then the parts 3 and 4, the last 2 votes on Friday, October 27th. If those 4 SIPs are approved, then Bitocracy will fully accept ownership and governance of the AMM. And on Tuesday, October 31st, also known as Bitcoin White Paper Day, we will execute SIP 46, parts 1 through 4, again, assuming those votes are approved. And then Bitocracy will govern all of the sovereign smart contracts, including the AMM. So mark these dates down in your calendars. SOV stakers, get ready to vote. Back to you, Ingemar. Okay, yep. Let's roll right along then. So, for recent releases, there's been a few big updates to Sovryn.app. One of those is the migration of the fixed interest loans functionality. So, users of the Sovryn lending protocol who want to borrow assets that are available can now borrow either BTC or sovereign dollars on Sovryn.app at a fixed interest rate. We also migrated the voting functionality. This just launched today, actually. So Sovryn.app/Bitocracy is a re-implementation of the Bitocracy app, where users can view past proposals as well as live proposals and vote on live proposals if they are eligible to vote by staking SOV. The announcement that went out today has all of the details about what is new there, so be sure to check that out after the call if this is interesting to you. On alpha.sovryn.app, which is the original old school Sovryn app, we introduced Sovryn dollar margin trading. This was a feature that has been in demand since the launch of the Sovryn dollar AMM pool and lending pools. Now those features are combined together, so Sovryn dollar users, BTC holders, can trade up to 5x leverage using Sovryn dollar. And on the smart contract side, there have been a couple of important updates. One is gas savings for people who are claiming their share of fees that are distributed to sovereign stakers. We've made a couple of updates this year aimed at reducing those gas costs for people who are claiming the fees that they've earned, and this recent change is one more to add to the list, which you should see those gas costs come down, which means more sats in your pocket. Another update that was made is the ability to claim all fee share assets with one button. So previously, if you went to the fees earned tab on the rewards page, you had to click a different button for every asset that was available to claim. And now you can claim all of the fee sharing assets with one button. You might still have to do more than one transaction if it would take more than a block's worth of gas in order to claim all of your available assets. But at least you only have to click one button. So that's a nice quality of life improvement that's come, and want to give a shout out to the Solidity team and the front end team for working together to make these updates happen. Next slide, please. So soon to release, these are things that are in the oven, very close to coming out, are a few updates to the loan tokens. We are trying to get these changes out before the Bitocracy 3.0 transition so that the Exchequer multisig can make these changes without having to push them all through SIPs, which might require multiple votes and take up SOV staker attention for relatively minor things. So we're just doing a couple of nips and tucks here and there. Fixing logic on the loan tokens to enable them to be withdrawn from certain vesting contracts where there was an incompatibility. A loan token pauser logic update and loan token logic proxy refactoring. Currently, every loan token has its own proxy contract, but it's the same proxy contract code for each of those loan tokens. So we're just simplifying it and changing it so that all of the loan tokens use the same single proxy contract. It's just means we only have to maintain one thing instead of like 5 or 6 different things. And then finally, of course, as we discussed earlier, the Bitocracy 3.0 SIPs. And these are very close to coming out. As I mentioned, the first vote is going to be on October 20th. That is next Friday. So again, mark your calendars, get ready to vote on those SIPs. Next slide, please. And now looking a little bit further out, works in progress for Sovryn.app. we are looking to have an updated wallet connection modal, which should make onboarding for new users more intuitive. We've done some user testing on this and saw some clear areas of improvement, and we are now making those improvements according to that feedback. We're introducing a Bitocracy proposal creator, which is a bit more user-friendly and intuitive than the current proposal creator in the Sovryn Alpha application. We are introducing market making to Sovryn.app so that users can deposit and withdraw, manage their AMM liquidity positions for the AMM market makers. We are working on an AirSwap RFQ, that is request for quote integration, which will provide an intense-like system for trading on the convert page. You'll be able to interact directly with AirSwap market makers, and if they give you the best price of all of the available sources of liquidity for the pair that you're trying to trade, then that trade will be sourced through the AirSwap RFQ protocol. And then lastly, we are looking to make the convert page the landing page. Currently, the 0 page is the landing page, but since you can't, since it's kind of very expensive, almost prohibitively expensive to actually originate a new 0 loan right now, we're looking to shift the focus of the landing page to something that everybody can use, which is the convert page. The convert page has also been seeing a lot of traffic due to the trading competitions, and so we're going, since that's the page where a lot of new users are coming in and immediately jumping over to, we just want to simplify that for them by making the convert page the landing page. This is something of an experiment. We're gonna make this change and see how this goes. It might change again in the future, but for now, that's what the data and the overall strategy is suggesting is the right move. So that summarizes all of the development updates, and I will pass it over to French Victory for the adoption updates.
Thank you very much, John. Very exciting things ahead. I would like to discuss the recent profit and loss competition. We gave out rewards in the total sum of $15,000, sponsored by IOV, makers of stock card chain, as most of you probably know. We had 5 winners in each category. Next slide, please. And the categories were net profit and loss, percentage profit and loss, and a random winner. Next slide, please. Yeah, I think from the reaction from the community, I can say that people had fun participating, and it seems to me that a lot of contenders had very, very inventful and creative ways to try to get ahead in the leaderboard. In total, the trading volume of the competition was almost $450,000, with 38 participants out of 128 registrations altogether. It performed 916 swaps. That is double the amount of, we can say in previous ones. Still, thank you. That is double the amount of trades that we had, trade dollar value that we had in the pilot competition. And we have some ideas on how to improve it for the next time. Another positive angle of this competition is that the Sovryn dApp saw 51 new wallets interacting with it in the week of the competition. That's week 40 of the year. And all in all, there was 79 Bitcoin trading value volume traded on the Sovryn AMM during that week, which is 4 times as much as the previous 4-week average, which is, pretty good. Next slide, please. We have some takeaways and suggestions for improvements for the competition. One is that we'd like to have longer registration period of at least 2 weeks, but maybe even 3. We did an experiment with doing paid promotion in the last 2 days of registration. We did paid promotion in the traders Telegram group, and that was an influx of new Telegram users. I have to say that these users didn't trade a lot, but I think just the growth in Telegram was worth the investment and definitely worth further experimentation with paid promotions for the competition. The next competition, we'd like to have it longer than a week. We'd like to have it run for at least a month, possibly with weekly rewards. And we should definitely have some more content around it, such as opening and closing spaces, and things like that to hype things up. There is a grand winner of this competition. His or her name is FreeZero. FreeZero took home $5,700 out of $15,000 prize, which is pretty awesome for them. And they had a very inventive system around how to win the board. So what FreeZero did, according to our analytics, is that they bought fish, the fish token when it was low, and then traded fish, bought and sold fish from other accounts to move around the price. Fish has a very shallow AMM, and it doesn't take a lot of liquidity. I think it was about $15,000 altogether to move it around, and that enabled FreeZero to present very high profit in poker. So this leads us to our last takeaway. Since FreeZero also won a random swap prize, I think that next time we will only have random swap for people who didn't win anything in the other categories, just to spread the joy around. Speaking of next time, we're currently talking to IOV about ongoing support for at least a few months of trading competition. It seems positive, so I think it will go forward. We're looking to introduce some margin trading profit and loss competition, where the main category would be around volume. So it would be the volume that you've traded times the profit that you've made, and this is to encourage traders to trade higher volumes and possibly see a sharp increase in the AM. That's it for me.
While people are thinking about their questions, I will just say a couple of things. First of all, we are reaching a major milestone for Sovryn, effectively coming out of alpha and having achieved the first set of major goals that we set for ourselves. And I think this speaks to determination. This is an extremely complex project with many interlinked components, trading, stable coins, building on an entirely new ecosystem, which basically needs to be built from the ground up. So that means creating from scratch data systems, nodes, load balancing, bridging, fast BTC, lending, margin trading, governance systems, front ends, integrations with wallets, and the list is endless. Every time we have one of these meetings, there's a long list of things that have been developed. Building extremely complicated things doesn't have the same tempo or sort of growth curve as other kinds of more narrow projects. I was watching a talk by Peter Thiel 2 nights ago, which resonated with me. He spoke of 3 different categories of successful startup. Those that provide some kind of thin functionality and distribute it very far. So that would be something like a Twitter or a Facebook. Those that develop lower cost ways of providing sort of business services. So that would be like B2B services. So or something with a complex technology, like a Palantir. And then he said that there's a third kind, which is usually not undertaken because it is more complicated, because it is more difficult, and also because it has a very different growth trajectory. And he described this third kind as the bundling together of a large number of small innovations. He, as examples, provided Amazon, Tesla, and I think SpaceX. None of which created an entirely new technology, and none of which had something thin which they were easily able to distribute, each of which required incremental improvements on a large number of interlinked systems. And the point he was trying to make is that those types of endeavors are very, very difficult to build. They take a long time. And at the beginning, it appears from the outside that no progress is being made. In fact, usually from the outside, he says, it appears that the projects are encountering only failure. And this is because that as you are iterating on these interlinked challenges, whichever challenge happens to be the most challenging bottleneck that you're dealing with can cause all of the other elements to operate or function less than optimally, or sometimes worse than that. Sovryn is, to my mind, very squarely in the third category. We are attempting to build out the fundamental components of a new type of ecosystem, a truly decentralized economy based on Bitcoin. That requires a currency, stablecoins. It requires governance, Bitocracy. It requires bridges to other economies, bridges and fast BTC. It requires basic infrastructure, which is all of the infrastructure sources. It requires trade, like the AMM and RFQ systems. It requires credit systems like the lending and margin trading systems. And these all need to work in concert. We've been grinding out problems, sort of whack-a-mole, with each of these for the last 2+ years now. And I can tell you that from the trenches, it is like a holy war. It is a constant bloody slog of rooting out and iterating on potential problems. But it becomes almost impossible to replicate that kind of thing. Very, very difficult to replicate such a thing. And if you look at the world right now, we are being, to me personally, people are reaching out from funds like VC funds and projects that want to build on Bitcoin because they want to understand how we've been building an ecosystem. The ecosystem that we've built is not the biggest in crypto, not anywhere near, but it is certainly the biggest in Bitcoin. And we are in the unique position as a community of having the only experience of building out a actual fully fledged ecosystem with all of the warts and flaws and problems and challenges that come along with it in the Bitcoin ecosystem. And I think we've done this with a great deal of foresight in a world which is now starting to become very hungry for exactly that kind of ecosystem. So, coming back to the point of determination, sometimes bloody-minded, stubborn, hard-headed, even pig-headed determination is required in order to do those things which are hard and most would never even contemplate attempting. Success is not guaranteed, but it is determination that makes the difference between the fantasy of dreaming about things that could be cool and the sheer stubbornness that is required to actually try and make them a reality. I'm part of a community that has that kind of sheer stubbornness. You guys are beautiful motherfuckers. Stay sovereign.
Awesome.
Yes, I'm. Uh, no, but that's a good question. I mean, the norm, the trading fee on Sovereign is usually around 0.35% of the trade. So a quick calculation of the AMM volume would reveal that perhaps one digit can help us with it here. Yeah. Uh, yeah. One digit. If you have time, it's okay. But if not, it's also fine. There's a question in the chat. How to claim the prize? From MetaMask 0esque. MetaMask, we're gonna airdrop the prize by early next week. That's what we're aiming to do. And you have another request to subsidize the gas fees in the next P&L trading challenge. This has been discussed, but honestly, the rewards here are sponsored by Rootstock. They make their living basically from gas fees. I think it's a bit much to ask them to subsidize the rewards as well as the gas fee, if you know what I mean. I hope you can understand.
That's a great question. I don't know the answer. I'll try and give a nuanced answer to the best of my understanding. My nuanced answer is no and yes. No, we will not see changes in the near term to Bitcoin because those just take forever, and there is a new cultural war to be fought in Bitcoin, and we are in its opening phases. It is an important cultural war which will bring Bitcoin back to the world, to being the leader in innovation, adventure, and ambition in terms of what and how the world can be changed. But that war has to be fought first. The yes is an ironic yes. We are going to, unquestionably to my mind, see huge, unprecedented amount of innovation in Bitcoin. Certainly nothing that we've seen probably in 6 or 7 years in Bitcoin is going to happen over the next 1, 2, maybe 3 years. We are going to see roll-ups to Bitcoin. We are going to start seeing more trustless and perhaps completely trustless pegs if we have anything to do with it. We are going to see DeFi ecosystems. We are going to see real assets, new types of assets, and entirely new ideas being developed on Bitcoin. We're going to see scale. We're going to see the ability to transfer first tokens and then eventually Bitcoin trustlessly without pre-funding in a way which is going to blow Lightning Network out of the water. All of those things are going to create the cultural opportunity and justification for making changes to Bitcoin. For example, the introduction of zero-knowledge opcodes. But at the same time, so much of this innovation is, including the work that we're doing, is being done without the requirement of any changes to Bitcoin. BitVM doesn't require any new opcodes. Now, there's a lot, we can imagine many ways in which BitVM could be improved with opcodes, but I think what Ruben and Lucas have demonstrated, and a few others have demonstrated with BitVM, is once again, just like Casey did, and the opportunity, that the huge design space available still in Bitcoin to develop and extend its functionality without changes. This is the most exciting part to me, because I would like to see no changes to Bitcoin. I would like to see Bitcoin become truly a law of nature, not a law of men. And so I think we're moving into a phase where we're going to be blessed with riches. On the one hand, we will have all of the justification to make changes, and on the other, possibly, we will also have all of the technologies which make it unnecessary to make those changes. So I cannot be certain. But what I do think, and what I think has been Sovryn's goal from day one, is to be one of, if not the leading proof point of why those changes need to happen. Of bringing in people to see the value that is inherent in building more functionality on Bitcoin, so that it would be easy to justify and there would be substantial demand for those changes, while at the same time, of course, attempting to make sure that those changes never happened. And in this way, effectively hedging our bets and effectively hedging Bitcoin's bet. So I don't know how this ends. It will either end with the last change to Bitcoin, or it will end without any more changes to Bitcoin. Either of which would be a major victory for what we're trying to do.
I have a question for Yago. This is Travis, by the way.
Hi, Travis.
Hi. So I agree with a lot of what Yago says, with all of that, and especially like this excitement coming to Bitcoin and being built on Bitcoin. And I know we've had some discussions on whether RSK is the best choice for us to be building on Bitcoin. We've kind of been back and forth on like our own chain ideas and stuff like that, and now we're starting to see other chains like AVAX, Polkadot, that are also trying to bring DeFi to Bitcoin from their own chains and kind of doing like this cross-chain compatibility there. And they seem to be like this clear winner yet. Yago, do you see RSK with the Federation, the PEG right now, being the best choice?
Thank you. First of all, I would like to invite other people to join my answer or provide their own answer afterwards. I know, obviously, this is a topic of hot discussion amongst sovereigns and sovereign developers. But I will give my answer. For the foreseeable future, I believe that a federated bridge remains the best intermediary bridge that we have. I've got a term that I sometimes use to describe this, which is the LCB, right? We currently use the LCB. PowPeg is an LCB. What is an LCB? It's the least crappy bridge. It's crappy, but it's the least crappy. Kind of like democracy is like, the best crappy system we currently have. For the foreseeable future, a federation, and the federation can be massively improved, trust can be massively minimized, will remain the best LCB. At the same time, we are seeing a large number of projects that are trying to do better things, trying to reduce trust assumptions even further. One direction is economic pegs or economic bridges. This has been attempted by a number of different projects. Stacks are attempting it. TBTC have attempted it. Nomics are attempting it. Overall, my view is that economic pegs promise more than they can deliver. They do have some clear advantages over federations in that you can analyze the economics of their trust assumptions, but they're extremely expensive, complicated, do not scale, and ultimately rely on the creation of new kinds of volatile assets. Another direction that we're seeing are complicated constructions, things like spider chain, things like state chain bridges. These two have a lot of interesting ideas, but they introduce a huge amount of complexity, a huge amount of overhead, and the enemy of security is complexity. Finally, we have federated systems. Federated systems can be advanced dramatically. There is a huge amount of improvement in MPC or threshold cryptography happening as we speak. We are the beneficiaries of years of improvements in this field, which have yet to be applied to Bitcoin. And they have the big advantage that they are much easier to upgrade, can implement or integrate things like some of the other advantages or other methods that I described if and when they become viable. And finally, their ease of upgrade makes it possible to upgrade them quite simply to cryptographically trustless pegs, which is what we are all aiming for. We are aiming for ways to cryptographically demonstrate. There are no no trusted parties in our ability to transfer Bitcoin between the different Bitcoin layers. And for me personally, and I think for many of us, my biggest goal, my biggest dream for Sovryn, and the thing which keeps me motivated day in and day out, is my belief that we can introduce cryptographically trustless pegs, that they are within reach. The technology is here. It's now becoming much more of an engineering problem. It's still sci-fi tech. It's still moon maths, but it's possible. And I think we will get there. So that's my view. It will take time. That's going to take longer. But that is where we're going.
Can I actually ask another question to Iago? This is Travis again. So thank you for the answer, Iago. I really appreciate it. The other thing I've been thinking a lot about with DeFi coming to Bitcoin, obviously, is the funding and how these projects will be funded, whether that means they need their own token. That's kind of what I've been assuming. And I love how Sovryn has built. Our whole fee structure is based on only needing to use Bitcoin. I think that that's super important for anyone in the Bitcoin space, is that you don't need a token to use it. With Sovryn being established and being built over the course of a few years, and you guys have really just been cranking it out, so that's been really awesome to see despite the bear market. Just wondering, because crypto evolves so quickly, we see AI and tech just in general being able to advance the building and just the abilities that we have to be able to build different things. Has Sovryn taken a look at all on kind of like outsourcing building to AI, or looking at any of those AI projects and kind of just dabbling with some of the other stuff that's coming out with Bitcoin? Or are you guys purely focused on what we currently have and just optimizing those features? Just curious on that.
Does anyone from the dev core want to respond to this? I'll say that I've been low-key obsessed with AI for a while. In fact, my PhD thesis was in neural networks and machine learning. We were trying to create in software simulations of neural networks, of the way the brain works. So that was 20 years ago. We've also, and for a long time, I was bugging everyone in the Sovryn sort of developer group to try and use AI tools. I think overall, people are using tools that become available where they seem appropriate, but the number of places that they seem appropriate is still relatively quite small. AI, as it currently stands, has two major disadvantages. One is it's quite stupid. really um, it does a good job. If what I was going to say is going to be insulting, but it does a good job of passing liberal arts tests, but not. It's a bit dumb when it comes to engineering and physics or anything like that. Maths can't do. The second problem is at least as significant for us. It's not open source. At least the best models aren't open source. Now, I have been talking to a lot of AI developers, not as many as I would like, but I try to have these conversations when possible. Because, and I've sort of written a little bit about this in some of the social channels. My view is that AI is a breakthrough for human coordination, or at least can be, in ways which can parallel Bitcoin and blockchain. There is the opportunity for the Sovryn community to train a model to sort of act as the depository of collective wisdom, almost like the idealized in the Platonic sense, sovereign, by training it to have, in the same way that OpenAI have been training their ChatGPT to be woke and politically correct. We can train a AI to have a repository of our understanding of human freedom, individualism, as well as Sovryn's code base, Bitcoin's code base, so that anyone would be able to ask questions. And for me, this is a bigger thing. At some point, most of us will have children. We will want to have we want those children to be educated. There's a very good book that it was so good it brought me to tears, called Diamond Age by Neil Stephenson. And in Diamond Age, basically the entire story revolves around a poor young girl living in an incredibly difficult environment who somehow gets her hands on what Neil Stephenson in the book calls the primer, which is an AI book which has been designed to train upper-class children, and it helps train her. It's an entirely new take on homeschooling, and I think this is too big an effort for any person, any individual. But if I can be part of a community that shares my values, and we together can create sort of like a tutor, not just for ourselves, but for the next generations of sovereigns, that would be something I would be able to rely on much more than, or at least augment, the other possibilities out there, public schooling and other off-the-shelf opportunities. So it's a very intimate and personal quest for me, and I think AI can play a very important role in it. I know I've gone on something of a tangent from what was a simple question, but like I was saying earlier, I think the Sovryn mission is an extremely ambitious one. It is one to retake entire parts of our day-to-day lives back. Things that we take for granted, we don't even perhaps notice ways in which culturally we are sort of herded into particular corners, places where we give up our freedom, or we give up our privacy, or we give up the way that we educate our children, or we give up the way that we travel, or we give up the way and the places that we can live, or we give up our energy independence, etc., etc., etc. I think there's a lot of opportunities for people to rediscover or reinvent in ways that have never been available to people, independence and community. And I think that ultimately freedom is not an individual mission, but it is a communal mission. Freedom is very difficult to achieve for the individual because strict atomic individualism like that is too prone to poverty to really encompass the full spectrum of human life. And so if we want to be free in all ways, we need to be free together. We can stay on a bit for some additional questions for those who wish. Stay sovereign for everyone who's joined and for those who cannot stay.